Now on BBC One, the 6 o'clock news with Rita Chakrabarti.
Catastrophic failures in maternity care at an NHS trust led to hundreds of babies dying or being injured, a review has found. Over 200 babies and 9 mothers died when they should have been cared for by Shrewsbury and Telford NHS Trust. The review into the failings was triggered by a campaign by 2 families who both lost baby girls.
It's just bittersweet that we are missing daughters that should be with us today because their avoidable deaths were exactly that, avoidable, and we were lied to all the way through.
The Health Secretary apologised to the families for the unimaginable trauma that they'd suffered and promised changes at a local and national level. Good evening. The biggest review of maternity services in NHS history has found that catastrophic failures at Shrewsbury and Telford NHS Trust led to the deaths and injuries of hundreds of babies and mothers. The review by the senior midwife, Donna Ockendon, was initially tasked with looking into the deaths of just over 20 babies. But that grew to investigating nearly 1,600 cases over 20 years from 2000 to 2019. Today's findings show that repeated failures in maternity care led to the deaths of more than 200 babies. 9 mothers also lost their lives and 94 children were left with life-changing injuries. Donna Ockendon said the Trust often failed to investigate babies' deaths, and she also highlighted concerns about present-day care. The Health Secretary, Sajid Javid, today apologised to those families and promised to make changes at a local and national level. Our Social Affairs correspondent Michael Buchanan has this report.
Year after year, for 2 decades, children that should have thrived never made it to school. Entire classrooms were never filled, whole lives were never lived. At least 201 babies might have survived if they'd received better maternity care.
We now know that this is a trust that failed to investigate, failed to learn, and failed to improve.
The failings of this trust are unprecedented in the history of the NHS. They lied to families, they didn't investigate when errors occurred, they hid many of their failings from NHS regulators.
This is all the more concerning when it is clear that major issues in safety were apparent in both midwifery-led unit and consultant settings. Unfortunately, these cases were not isolated incidents, and through the time span of our review, we have found repeated errors in care which led to injury to either mothers or their babies.
It is thanks to the efforts of these 2 families, who each lost daughters in avoidable circumstances 7 years apart, that the review was set up.
I think we were absolutely right to do what we did, absolutely right. And I hope that all the other families that never had the opportunity to ask questions or didn't get the answers that they should have had when they suffered their harm, I hope that they get answers.
Her criticism of this hospital trust is comprehensive, and it is absolutely what we have experienced and what we've been saying all along.
So good.
11-year-old Adam Cheshire is profoundly disabled after developing an infection shortly after birth. At least 94 children, say the review, were left with life-changing injuries such as cerebral palsy due to poor treatment. Adam's mother believes he's one of them.
If they had induced me sooner, because natural labour wasn't starting, if they had monitored him appropriately after his birth, if they had made sure he fed, if they had even taken me seriously when I was saying there's something wrong, that's why I believe they're responsible for not all those warning signs that they missed.
In the Commons today, England's Health Secretary Sajid Javid said the report made for harrowing reading.
To all the families that have suffered so greatly, I am sorry. The report clearly shows that you were failed by a service that was there to help you and your loved ones to bring life into this world. We will make the changes that the report says are needed at both a local and national level.
9 women died in childbirth that might also have survived if the Trust had provided better care, if the culture had been open, supportive and transparent. But these are not historical problems. Today's report says the review team have significant concerns about ongoing maternity services. The Trust Chief Executive apologised for the failings and said they would improve.
I welcome Donna's report because it gives us that opportunity to ensure that we make changes based on the findings of her review, talking to all of those families so that we can improve the care going forwards.
Having had their concerns repeatedly ignored, today the families thanked the woman they felt had revealed the true scale of the Trust's failings. But it was more a moment of relief than celebration.
Where can the Trust go from this? That something needs to happen. They can't hide from this.
For me, it's just bittersweet that we are missing daughters that should be with us today because their avoidable deaths were exactly that, avoidable. And we were lied to all the way through. And we've been vindicated that we've spoken up, and we've spoken up on behalf of Pippa and Kate.
Well, we can talk now to Michael, who's reported extensively on this story. Michael, these are shocking findings today. What will change as a result?
Well, Donna Ockendon told me today that she could not remember a time within the NHS where there was greater focus on improving maternity care, and she believes improvements will indeed follow from this report. You heard Sajid Javid committed to following through on the recommendations as well, and last week NHS England announced an additional £127 million of investment into maternity care in England. But there is scepticism that these recommendations will be enacted, and for one particular reason, and that is Morecambe Bay. That was a report that was published in 2015 into maternity failures in Cumbria. It found similar problems that have now been discovered in Shrewsbury: a reluctance to carry out caesarean sections, poor teamwork in between midwives and obstetricians. And we have ongoing reviews due this year to report as well over problems in maternity care in Nottingham and East Kent. So there's a lot of work to be done, a lot of scepticism that it will be actually done. But this evening the focus is very much on the families here in Shropshire who were failed repeatedly by this Trust.
Thank you. Michael Buchanan reporting for us. And if you've been affected by this news, details of organisations offering information and support are available at bbc.co.uk/action line, or you can call for free at any time to hear recorded information, and that's on 08000 155 998.